So today here on the channel, I need your help in trying to identify the name of a particular game. It is a tabletop battle game. It's set in the future. It is human faction versus human faction. And I think the biggest hurdle in trying to identify the name of this particular game is the fact that it has absolutely zero to do with Games Workshop. So yes, it is not Warhammer 40k. I know that much. I'm going to hit you with some vague clues from what I can remember, and hopefully that's enough to jog your memory, and hopefully we can track the name down. Afternoon YouTube, Al here from One Man Many Plans, and of course the blog of the same name, which you can find over at onemanmanyplans.com.au. Welcome to this Wednesday afternoon, where in the last 24 hours it's been a little bit busy around Base HQ. First and foremost, I have found Blue again. Blue is my Yeti Snowball microphone. If you've been following the channel, I dug him out last year. He's been sitting on a shelf for a while. I found a way to link him up to my Samsung Galaxy S22 and then later on my latest phone, the S24 Ultra. Plus. We've got the Plus. And that has worked really, really well. But he's been in a moving box for quite some time, and I finally dug him out earlier today, so now I have a proper microphone for my recording again, which is awesome. Although, in the meantime, I've actually gone out and ordered a very basic lapel mic kit from AliExpress. Plugs into your phone, wireless capabilities. We'll see how this goes. It could be a game changer. It could be an interesting experiment, but that's coming up. The other thing that happened in the last 24 hours is that I've been continuing to try and clean up. If you caught my last episode, I'm in a workshop now. It's a great place to film, but it is a little messy. And I've been working out where to put everything, tools and computer parts and fitness gear. And one of the things that I was sorting out earlier today was actually the board games. Interesting board games like Jumanji, which, if I remember correctly, there was a rhino involved in that, and that rhino used to annoy me, so I'm not that keen to play Jumanji as a family board game for family board game nights so much as I am of playing this one, Muffin Time. If you haven't got into this, this is ridiculous family fun. Introduced by another family friend of mine from years and years ago, Heath and Jess. Thank you for introducing us to Muffin Time, because that goes an absolute treat amongst family board game nights and when you got friends and family over. It's the kind of beer and chips and Skittles kind of game. It is good fun. Can lead to arguments, can lead to fights. It's well and truly worth it. But while moving the games around, that made me suddenly remember a game that I used to have and that I'm trying to get your help today in identifying, because we're talking a tabletop game with miniatures that I picked up for a bargain price simply for the fact that it had minis that I could paint, and possibly getting into the wargaming side of things later. The trouble is, this is a while ago now. We're talking over 10 years ago. And trying to find a futuristic tabletop space warfare battle game nowadays in amongst the Galaxy and the Webway and the Warp and everything involved in Games Workshop and James Workshop and Jimmy Workshops, Warhammer, Fantasy World and Necromunda and all of that kind of stuff is next to impossible. So, like I said, I'm going to hit you with some very, very vague clues, and hopefully you can hit me up with an answer. Or if you've got a vague idea of what it could be, please let me know in a comment below. Okay, let's track back and milk out, there isn't much here, what I do know about this game from way back when. Okay, so I bought this game from Toyworld here in Australia. So whether they had a licensing deal or it was one of those things where another board game company decided to make their own tabletop war game and put it out to Toyworld to distribution, I don't know. But it was in Toyworld, it was in the gaming section, and I remember stumbling across a pile of them, 5 or 6 in a pile with a sign that said the name of the game, can't remember it obviously, that's why we're here, was $100, now $29.95. Yes, they were trying to sell this for close to $100 originally, down to $30 for the chance to paint some minis and, you know, have a war game in my collection. I thought, why not? And so I grabbed it. So that's where I found it. And it wasn't a case of buy the rule book and then buy the mini separate and here's the expansion and here's the extension and here's what else you need. It was the complete kit. Minis, dice, rule book, down to $30 for the chance to paint some minis and, have a war game in my collection, I thought, why not? And so I grabbed it. So that's where I found it. And it wasn't a case of buy the rule book and then buy the mini separate, and here's the expansion, and here's the extension, and here's what else you need. It was the complete kit. Minis, dice, rule book. You just supplied your friend. You just supplied your battleground, or I guess in your case, a spare tabletop or whatever it was to play, and off you go. So it was pretty much a standalone. 2 human factions, like I said, not a single sign of anything alien in this whatsoever. So that automatically rules out a lot of sci-fi games, which may be good or bad. Maybe the pure human ones. It was 2 armies against each other, and both had ground foot soldiers, shock troopers, whatever you want to call it. We're talking 40mm or less minis. We're talking the soldiers in flak armor and the stock standard sci-fi helmets. From memory, armed with laser rifles. Not las rifles, that's a 40k thing. Laser rifles. Possibly assault rifles. Don't think there were machine guns. Don't think there were small arms unless they were on the side of the model. Same with grenades, those kinds of things. So your stock standard, we're in the future, we need some flak armor and we need a combat helmet. Think along the lines of Starship Troopers or maybe the Colonial Marines from Aliens. They're the kind of uniforms and outfits that these particular minis had. So both sides had little mini soldiers ready to go. That wasn't all of them, of course. Each side also fielded a couple of pieces of machinery. Now, interestingly enough, they weren't the same on both sides. One of them was a Jeep and Dreadnought combo. The other one, I believe, was a Jeep and a flying combo. Now, when I say Dreadnought, I am talking more thinking along the lines of, I think it's ED209, whatever the RoboCop one was before RoboCop, one of the ones that went crazy and shot a lot of people, or more to the gaming side of things, think the Dreadnought out of Space Crusade in the original board game from the 90s, that Chaos Dreadnought. That's kind of what it looked like, but instead of being a dead Space Marine or a dying Space Marine interned in there for eternity, it had its canopy. You could see the soldier in there, and it had, I think, a power claw and an assault cannon, all the things you need for a rampaging dreadnought along the battlefield to just literally tear stuff up. So someone got the dreadnought and then a Jeep, like some kind of transport type of thing. Did it have tracks? Or maybe the other one had tracks. One of them had wheels, one of them had tracks. So, it was like a half track kind of thing. Maybe a pintle mounted gun on the back of it. That was on one side. That was what one player got. On the other side, like I said, it was a combination of some kind of land transport unit and then a flyer, like I think a hover jet, those kinds of things, bigger than a hover bike from a Space Marine. But I just definitely remember one had the Dreadnought, the other one had something that could fly. So there was your point of difference. From memory, I don't think there was too much more to the mini side of things. I can't remember any particular obstacles. I don't think there were any terrain pieces, not even your stock standard. We're buying Warhammer Fantasy for the first time, so here's a bit of cardboard and a plastic thing to slot that into. None of those kinds of things. What else did it have? It had the rule book. And when I say the rule book, it was just a rule book. It wasn't the Games Workshop special of 7 different supplements and a rule book for him and a rule book for her and some additional rules and some complex rules and some simple start rules and those kinds of things that I had a play guide. It just had a rule book from memory. It had the dice. I don't even think it even had a ruler. So, if you wanted to measure distance, you had to bring your own ruler to the party. So that was the mini side of things. Like I said, pretty much close to the standard size of minis now, 40 mil or so, millimeter. Could have been a little bit smaller. It was decent details on these minis, and I did remember Googling it at the time, and people had their own paint guides and bits and pieces. So hopefully, you've come across that yourself and went, oh, what is this game? That looks kind of cool, and you know what it is. Like I said, there was no connection to anything at the time. This game was just a standalone, so it wasn't a case of promoting a movie. It wasn't the game belonging to a book series. It wasn't anything related to TV that I understood. It certainly had no connection to big blockbuster movies, like Aliens or Starship Troopers or any of that ilk. So there was no connection there. It was just, I'm going to say, possibly an Australian board game company that decided to try their hand at a tabletop board game, and it didn't work so well. But I had one, And I painted up a few, and I reckon I played it once or twice before, when moving house, I got rid of it. And now I'd like to try and find it out, just for sanity's sake, what that game actually was. And was I close to remembering how it was? Now, age-wise, because I haven't mentioned that yet, I just realised, we are talking over 10 years ago now, because this either came out just before my son was born or I picked it up shortly after. He's 13 and a half at the moment. So thinking back to 2012, 2011. All right, so if that's your era and you know the game, please let me know. That's the vague details that I know. Obviously, I don't know a name, but I can tell you, if it helps, a few things that it isn't. All right, we've already established that it's got nothing to do with Games Workshop, which means Space Crusade, Space Hulk, Deathwing, all of those kinds of things, all of those standalone games have absolutely nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with Necromunda either. I don't know anything about Warcry, nothing connected to Warcry, nothing to do with the Games Workshop. Huge lineup of space battles and, all that kind of stuff. The troopers kind of would look okay in, say, an Imperial Guard unit, but that's probably the only vague connection you could have between these pieces and anything else. You could easily tell these pieces from a Games Workshop piece, though. So, there's that. I've gone through a few. I've Googled it with the vague details that I know. It's not Urban War. Definitely not Battlestar Galactica. Like I said, it was one of those things that didn't have a tie-in to anything that I know of. Fallen Frontiers, I don't think it's that. It's definitely not Twilight Imperium. I had a look at the cover, and there's an alien on the front cover of that, so nope, it can't be Twilight Imperium. Space Crusade, we know it's not. Horizon Wars, no. I don't know much about Force on Force. I don't think it's that. I'll look in deeper, but, look, I could be horribly wrong here. War of Civilizations, Talon, no. Talon seems to be a standalone rule book, and then you add to it. This was just all in one. The kit, the box, you provide the battlefield, and you're ready to go. So does that help you at all? Possibly, possibly not. If you know what it is, please let me know in a comment below, and you will be the hero of the day, or the hero on this channel temporarily. If you know what it is but don't have a name, throw some more details my way, because obviously the more that we put out there into the ether, out on the internet, the closer we'll get to solving this, and that'll just be another random mystery that I will have solved on this channel. Also, if you like mysteries, don't forget to check out my other one about mysterious video games. I still haven't had an answer. I'm sure plenty of people have tried, but if you want to check that out, here's a link to it, because we're still looking to solve that mystery. But today, it's all about this mysterious war game. If I find the answer, I'll be back with it soon. Like, comment, subscribe. Awesome to have you back on the channel. And hopefully we can name this damn game, because I have no idea what it was.